So why did you want to debate a vegan? And then we can get into it.
Well, it's actually more of like, to be honest, these last 2 weeks, it's been like, should I really do this? Because of all the times where I have debated vegans, of course, debating somebody in person versus debating them on Instagram is very different. And to be honest, I have a vegan friend who's also on exchange right now, and we have had the discussion already. Ultimately, the problem is that this is a bad matchup for myself and personally, I think for you, because our moral frameworks are very different in that sense. So what you might see as right or wrong and what I might see as right or wrong are completely different. So, to be honest, this is just like, I should just say, for me, it's a thought exercise, really. And
okay. Okay, I know where you're coming from. So what I guess I would like to do is advance animal rights from your own worldview. Have you heard of the name the trait question?
no, but I have my computer on me, unless you'd like to explain it for me.
Yeah, cool. Let's get into it. I'll ask you the question. So basically, I totally understand that you're probably coming from a completely different moral perspective from me. But the good thing about the name, the trait question, is it asks the person you're asking to actually form a consistent view on animal rights from their own worldview, which is the good thing about it. So I can ask this question to a subjectivist, an objectivist, a Christian, a Muslim, a Hindu. Doesn't matter what they are, what their moral system is. Would you agree that we should at least have a morally consistent, internally coherent moral framework? Like, we can't just say, we can't make contradictory statements that like don't make sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. Although, if I do make contradictory statements, please call me out on them. Like, absolutely
Yeah, sure.
do.
I mean, like, this ultimately will be the idea of the question. Now there is, so there's no right or wrong. Well, no, there is a wrong way to answer this.
There is a right or wrong, yeah.
So, but what I'm saying is, you could answer this question consistently, but the point is, most people, most non-vegans I've found, are not able to answer this question consistently, which shows that in their own worldview, they have an inconsistent position between humans, how they view humans and how they view animals. So I guess I'll ask you to name the trait question. So this might sound like a very silly question just to ask beforehand, but the question is, say we were to start like rounding up humans, gassing them, slitting their throats, and turning them into meat and milk products. Would you support that?
Could you repeat that last phrase? You kind of cut out for me. Like, it's my internet,
yeah.
Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. If we were to like round up humans, gas them, enslave them, stab them to death, impregnate them, and turn them into like meat products and milk products, would you support that?
As a human being, myself?
Yeah.
If there was nothing else to eat, like if there were no animals to eat, yes.
Let's say you can just eat plants.
That's the trick, yeah. That is the trick. Wow, that's a bit of a.
It's ultimately
yeah, no, it's difficult because this is a bit of a psychological trick in a way, and I'm trying to. Well, honestly, yes. My answer would be yes.
You would support rounding up humans and gassing and enslaving and murdering them for meat?
Not because it's meat, but okay, yeah. To answer your question, yes, meat, yes, I would, yes. I understand your point of view, yes, and the psychological trick there, but the answer is still yes.
Well, this isn't the trick. This is just the holy shit. This is just the pre-question to the question. This isn't the trick. I don't know if you would support a human Holocaust. I don't know how much. I don't think I'm going to be able to convince you that it's wrong to support an animal Holocaust.
Okay, let's say I said yes to eating plants. Let's say I continue. I mean, to be honest, it's both ways for me because Obviously, nobody wants to be a fucking cat. Sorry, I'm not going to swear. That's not allowed, is it? Swearing? It's
You
not
can swear.
allowed?
It's fine. Yeah, you can swear.
Okay, well, I mean, it's up to you. I mean, personally, I don't want to, like, I don't know what you're going to do with this footage, but if you'd like it not with no swear words, that's fine with me.
Oh, my content has lots of swearing in it, so swear away, man.
All right, yeah. Well, look, no human's going to openly admit to cannibalism. So, okay, let's say I do say that, like, if I'm not going to be like completely cold, yes, I would rather eat plants. Okay, instead of enslaving, cannibalizing, and torturing my own species. Yes, sure.
Okay. But I take it you currently do agree with doing these same things to animals. So rounding them up, putting them in gas chambers, slitting their throats to turn them into meat, milk products, eggs, and so on.
I don't agree with the method. The method of killing, especially in like how should I say, factory meat, for example. I do not agree with that at all. Like, I've seen the videos, like you see these vegan Instagram posts and they put this very graphic video of what it's like to be in slaughterhouses. I've watched that. I'm ashamed to say that I watched that and I don't feel anything, but I do understand the sentiment. And I do agree, especially because of where I live in the UK and how they go about farming there. But of course, so I live in Devon, and Devon is farmland, and a lot of the meat there is like, it's ethical farming in a way. I mean, I know you obviously don't agree with that statement at all, but that's something I am very much in favor of, rather than factory meat. Like, but it's also it's a luxury, ethical farming, because it's not, you pick factory meat over meat from straight from a farm, like an organic farm. It's more expensive, and I think a lot more people, if ethical farming or ethical meat was more affordable, they would pick that. But yes, I don't agree with the gassing, boiling pigs alive. I don't understand the science behind that, where they boil pigs and cows alive in water, which apparently makes it easier.
So yeah, once their throats are slit, they drop them in a scalding tank. It's chickens and pigs to remove their coarse hair or their feathers. So
yes,
that
it's
does
easy.
happen.
So wait, but they aren't alive.
They're not meant to be, so they mostly should not be alive. However, obviously, as you know how fast slaughter lines work, many animals will have their throats slit ineffectively, so will go into the scalding tanks fully conscious. Yeah.
Okay, yes, because I have seen that video, and you can literally hear the pig squeal, and it's not a pretty sight. It's
100%. All right. Well, I mean, there's a few pathways we can go down here, but I mean, ultimately, I guess one thing I would say to you is, you say you're against those certain methods, but you will obviously just be funding those things when you go to a shop and buy an animal product. You don't know exactly how that animal's being killed, and vast majority of animal products in the UK or anywhere really nowadays is factory farmed anyway. So you may hold the position that you don't like that this happens or whatever, but you're still supporting that by not being vegan, right?
Yes. So, I mean, again, like, the moral frameworks are different in that work. Like, how should I say? Okay, I'm gonna put it into perspective. I have hunted before. I have, because my family very diverse from East Europe. They're big into hunting there. I have hunted when I was younger. I would still hunt, but if the point of hunting again is, if I'm not eating what I'm killing, that is for me a total waste, and that is not it's not for me. Like, that's my morals, is if you're hunting something, you have to eat it. You can't just hunt for pleasure or trophy. Like, that's completely unreasonable. That's off the cards. Because it's the same with eating meat. Is, when I eat meat, I respect the meat I eat. Like, there's no waste. There's nothing like that. I'm taking a life. I'm eating a life. That much is obvious. So you have to have a certain amount of respect for the life that you are eating or that you are taking.
Well, there's stuff I can push back with now, but just to stay on topic, I don't feel that answered the thing I mentioned about how you say you don't support these methods about the gas chamber stuff and all that kind of stuff, but you're still funding that when you buy animal products. There's not really any way around that.
Yeah, no, I guess it's. I mean, look, we can all say that people can argue that essentially eating meat is a choice. There's no way around that. People eat meat for pleasure. That's it. That is it. There's no other argument as to why people eat meat. And I'm fully acceptant of the fact that that is my reasoning. I'm not going to back down or get defensive about that. That is my choice. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really know how to answer your question. You're asking why, even though I don't support like barbaric killing of animals in these factories, why still eat meat? Well, I guess that's down to a real core thing is I don't know if this is the right term, but humanist. You understand?
I understand, but I understand that you see a moral difference between killing humans and animals, or I think you do, because I'm still a bit confused by your answer
Yeah,
to
no,
the
no,
first question
definitely,
about
definitely
you
see
do.
a difference. Yes.
Okay, all right, but then that still leaves the question. You still said, even though they are animals, that you don't support the idea of doing this and that and that to them, even though they're animals. But then you're actually paying for that to happen. So you are voting with your money for that to happen. You say you don't want that, you don't like the idea of the pigs being boiled alive. You say you're against the gas chambers and stuff, but then you're paying for that when you go into a shop.
Yeah, but that's no. Look, to be honest, when debating a vegan, there's no way to win morally. Like that's not why I came here to debate. Yeah, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Like morally, there's no way around you guys. I'm not fucking stupid. Like there's no way around that.
All right. Okay, I appreciate your honesty there. Okay, all right. Let me just go off that. So let me just ask the name the trait question then. Let me just ask this in a different way. So I assume you would not support rounding up children and killing them for meat.
No, I would not.
Okay, cool. Great. That's a nice simple answer. We can just keep this on track now. However, you do support the idea of doing that to animals, correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Right. The question then is, and I'm just going to see now, Zach, if you have within your own moral framework a consistent position in distinguishing between how you treat animals and how you treat humans, right? So the name the trait question is, and I can phrase this in a different way, by the way, if you need, because a lot of people don't understand it because it's quite philosophical. But the question is, what is it that's true of animals that, if true of a child, would cause you to say that it was justified to kill a child and eat that child?
That sounds like a riddle. I'm gonna have you rephrase that.
I'm gonna rephrase it. Okay. So your current position is that it's not okay to kill children for food, but it is okay to kill animals for food. Okay, so which is the view of the majority of people. Okay. The problem is with that view is that if you actually apply the things about animals that you find it makes it morally okay to kill animals to a child, in all likelihood, you could have a consistent worldview. I don't know, but in all likelihood, most people will have an inconsistent worldview. So let me phrase it in a simpler way. What is it about a chicken or a pig that you say makes it okay to kill a chicken or a pig for food?
Well, that is a very short answer. Speciesism.
Is it literally just the idea that
It is literally the idea of the food chain. That is literally it. That is the justification that most people use when it comes to why is it okay to kill an animal over a human. It's most people argue humans are the evolved species. They can do what they want. That is why it's okay. And to be honest, that is almost exactly the same reasoning as I would put it. I mean, it is just because we are human and they are animals. Of course, that takes away a lot of empathy, and that's not very morally sound. It's not a very morally sound argument again.
Okay.
But
So,
it is, yeah.
all right, all right. So now I guess we could basically your answer is just basically that they're different somehow and that we're able to do it. Is that it? Or
Yes, it's that we're evolved. I mean, you take it like if you go to okay, this is probably a bit abstract, but it works for me. Is you go to a environment where there is a different apex predator. Let's say you go to an environment. Okay, I mean, to be honest, I can't really think of an animal that is what's it called? That eats both meat and plants. That's an apex predator in an environment. I don't think such a thing exists except for humans.
a bear? Bears are
Well, okay,
omnivores.
yeah, bears, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah. Let's say you go to the environment of a bear. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they choose not to eat, other things if they can just eat plants? Because they
Yeah,
can.
yeah, well, because they don't give a shit. But I
Yeah,
think as
exactly.
humans, we should give a shit. If I'm able to empathize with and choose something else. A bear is in a survival situation and doesn't care about tearing your face apart. I do care. You even care about the pigs being boiled alive in the scalding tank. So obviously, when we're talking about how we should behave, we shouldn't really talk about what other animals do. There's 1,000 things that we see as wrong that animals do, right?
Yeah, no, 100%.
So
yeah.
Let's try and be really precise though about we understand that animals are different from us and that we do this to them, but then this would just kind of be like an is or kind of problem. It would just be like, well, this is what's happening, therefore it's okay. But I think we should be more specific than that. There must be something about chickens and pigs that when someone stabs a chicken or a pig, you say that's okay to kill the chicken or a pig, but when someone was to stab a child and eat them, it's the same situation. I have this power over the child. They're different from me. I'm above that child in the food chain. I'm stabbing this child to death. I'm eating them. So I'm obviously in a more dominant position. I eat them. So it's basically the same thing is happening. But in one case, you're saying this is okay. And in the other case, you're having me arrested for murder. So there must be something about chickens and pigs that's making you say this is okay. Forgetting our situation, but think about those beings. What is it about chickens and pigs?
Well, it's simple as, I mean, we already said this before. They're not humans. I mean, that's the simple. I mean, your answer, you're asking for the more precise reasoning as to why we think that way.
Sure.
And to be honest, that way of thinking is, even for me, it's quite hard to find that specific reason, and that's probably the point of your argument, is we can't really tell the difference. Why?
Well, yeah, I would just say that if your reasoning literally just comes down to there are different species and no other trait matters, I would say that's a pretty shaky worldview, because I could just say, like, let's say we had hypothetically a chicken who had the consciousness of your mother and like a child who had the consciousness of like a maggot. Would you really think that killing the chicken with the consciousness of your mother was not as bad as killing the child with the consciousness of a maggot, for example? I'm just like using other traits people might use, like consciousness or like ability to build things, or there's a certain number of things people might say about animals that makes it okay for us to do these things to them. But if for you, literally the only thing is just species, that would be kind of weird, because it's like,
yeah, okay, no, that's interesting, and that would elevate my reasoning to
capacity. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's now do the whole name. All right, so now let's just apply that trait to a child. Now, I imagine that, like most people here, you will not have a consistent position, and that you should basically just admit that veganism is the morally consistent thing to be. So the question is, if a child had the reasoning capacity of a chicken, would it be okay in your worldview to stab that child to death and eat them?
That's not a nice thought to have, to think about. Why? It's not nice that in my mind I'm thinking about, yes, that would be reasonable. It's not a nice thought to have. I'm thinking about it. I don't like the fact that I'm having that thought. Not due to views of veganism, but due to other views. What is? I mean, I kind of do want to ask, what is the wrong answer here? Because personally, yes, I would.
You would find it okay to kill and eat the child?
Yes, I would.
All right, look, that's a consistent position. And I can't go further. You have a consistent position. I think it's crazy, mate. I'm not going to lie. I think it's immoral. If you would kill a child, because these children exist, by the way, there literally are children who have the reasoning capacity of sheep, chickens, and cows. If you genuinely think it's okay to round up those kids and kill them and eat them, it's consistent. You're the most consistent non-vegan I think I've spoken to, but I would say that's pretty.
Oh,
maybe it's something you should think about. Go away and think about.
I told you already. I don't like the fact that I have that way of reasoning. I'm at least I'm honest about that. But
yeah.
I'm very Darwinistic in that sense. So I wouldn't round them up and eat them. But we can talk about euthanizing. So yeah, I don't mind admitting that. Like that's why I said is that our matchup here, it's not a very good one. Mainly for you against me, because morally, like for me, there's a big difference between morals and principles. And I don't care about morals. I'm going to be honest. For me, that's just a tool. That is literally it.
Yeah,
it's not that I'm.
The funny thing about this question is, most people that I ask this to, they'll say something like, "You should see this debate I had with this dude recently. He was he was such a sophist, and he was like." I'll send you the link to it after this, but he was like, when I would then apply those traits to the child, he'd be like, no, you can't compare. It's a human. Right. And I was like, but all I've done is just trait equalizer. I was like, these are your traits that you've told me would make it okay to kill the child. And then you'll see what a like evasive person this guy was. Look, you've just said, yeah, it's horrible to think about, but yeah, I would find that morally acceptable. Yeah, there's nothing I can say to you, dude. Like, okay, it's consistent. If you genuinely think that it would be okay to breed humans who had the consciousness of a chicken and eat them, like we have these human children farms where we line up these children one by one and kill them and eat them and put them in supermarkets. If you think that that's okay, I can't say anything to you. As I say, we have different worldviews, but at least it's consistent.
I can't actually say anything. This is why at the start of the question, I was trying to figure out what the ending solution was. I was trying to this is exactly what I expected it to be, but there's no choice but to stick to your worldview in that sense. Yes, I could just do a U-turn, but I literally just said that's the thought I had in my head, and it's not something I like to think about, but it is about staying true to yourself and your beliefs.
Sure, but maybe you're only saying this then because you want to stay true to yourself and your beliefs and you want to be consistent. But is this the real Zach? Like, is this like, when this debate ends, when this call ends, are you really going to go away and go to yourself, yeah, I genuinely do think it would be okay to kill the mentally disabled and eat them, basically?
I mean, take it like this. I'm not afraid to admit this, but if you were going to use a term to define me, or if I was to use a term to define me, not necessarily one that I like, the word would be elitist. That would be the term that I think would describe my mindset among other terms. And I think that elitist mindset is very, it's consistent with what I've just said, is you're talking about a person who does not have any intellectual capacity. Yes, I don't mind euthanizing or killing a person, like just away. Like, I've got no problem with that personally, because to me that is, they have no use. That is, there's no use. Yeah, that's an extreme worldview from your perspective. I understand that. That's dumber. I mean, from almost any perspective, but my mind is just geared towards efficiency, and if that bypasses morals, then so be it.
All right, cool. Yeah, look, I think we can end there. I mean, you answered the question. Usually these things go on for an hour or whatever, and people are going over all the things. Like, I guess you've answered the question. I guess you have an internally coherent worldview. But yeah, obviously, I would like that you go away after this and maybe reconsider that position. But if that is your position, there's nothing I can convince you on, I guess. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's, of course, I don't want you to misunderstand. Is I completely agree with your worldview. Like, your morals, it's astounding. It is perfect. It is flawless. You guys are fighting the right battle. 100%. No argument from me whatsoever. I respect the hell out of you people. Like, the only thing what I don't really understand is, I don't know if I mean, obviously your channel, I don't know the intent of your page, whether it's geared towards self-expression or geared towards provocating or just spreading information. But the whole sentiment about veganism and furthering the cause of veganism comes across to a lot of people in the wrong way, where it's kind of like, I mean, you guys know you are right, and that's why the majority of you guys are like, you're projecting in a way, and it's fully understandable that you are that way, but most people don't react well to that kind of approach. And even though deep down they must know you guys are right. Like, I don't think there's a lot of people who will actively disagree with your way of life. Like, and the ones that do, I'm sorry, I place on the same level as people who have no intellectual capacity and be done with. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's an interesting view, yeah, for sure. And yeah, well, look, even inside the vegan movement, we're always critiquing and reflecting on our own methods of advocacy. But I think there is a truth in that a lot of people maybe deep down do know that we're right and that they have an inconsistent position, and that's why they act out towards us. People get angry at vegans because all we're doing is just trying to make a difference in the world. We're just trying to create less suffering and less exploitation, less abuse in the world. Our cause is completely harmless, completely noble. We're just trying to make a better world. So when people react with hostility towards us, yeah, it's often due to cognitive dissonance. They just think, shit, how do I reconcile my love for animals with the fact that I pay for them to be tortured, basically? So it's like even just a vegan being in the room at a party, a dinner party, whatever it is, in the work social event, whatever it is, just a vegan being in the room, their very presence just triggers people, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's like you said. I think, again, if a vegan's in the room, most people don't want to talk to the vegan because it's like I just said, like, to be honest, I find talking to vegans extremely exhausting. And I didn't think this was going to go this way, like so relaxing and calm, because most of my interactions with vegans have been very, how should I say? You're a lot more accepting of a divergent moral framework than a lot of the other vegans that I've encountered. I don't know if you're. I mean, you could be just externally be, how should I say, accepting, and internally totally different. But that's not my place to judge, because everybody can have their own worldview. I don't hate anybody in that sense. Even if somebody hates me, good luck to you. Like, it's like I said, I can't hate you guys. There's nothing to hate about you. There's nothing to be angry about. Like, There's nothing. There's no point in being angry.
Yeah.
But I guess the one thing I don't really know if this is a good example, but the one example I try to use to trip vegans up, well, it's not really trip them up, it's more like provocate, and which is personally, I think that's what you're doing here with this whole example. It's not supposed to be provocation, but at the end it is provocation, because you've led people along, and then you flip the script on them. And
it's not well. That's not really the intent. It's not like to. I know it seems like kind of like a gotcha kind of thing, but which I guess kind of it is. But all it is, if people are honest about it, it will basically it helps a lot of people actually go vegan. It's not like as a way to like try and be like, I've exposed this person or whatever it is. But it's more just to be like, look, I think this person could be vegan, but if they only realize they have an inconsistent position, it turns out you have a consistent position. I hope you're lying and that you don't actually think this, and that when you go away after this, you think, fuck. And then you realize that you have a bad reason for killing animals, because killing mentally disabled kids is obviously pretty morally fucked up. But yeah, carry on with what you were saying anyway.
You brought up killing disabled kids, my mind just went blank, I'm not gonna lie.
You were saying you had a thing that you like to trip vegans up with.
Yes, a scenario. It's a very abstract scenario in a sense, but it's supposed to be an open shut door thing. Like you can't do any evasive maneuvers, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be let's say you have 5 animals, 5 humans. All right. Mm-hmm. You don't know anything about the people. It could be a pedophile. It could be a priest. It could be a child that's literally just born. Random people. You don't know who you're gonna pick. So 5 animals of varying degrees, 5 humans, random. They're in a burning house. Mm-hmm. You can say 5 people. Who are you gonna pick? What do you value more, human life or animal life? Because I've spoken to one vegan and they said I would go all in 5 times and save all the animals.
Yeah, so personally, that would be my view. I do value, because of how humans are towards animals and the amount of suffering and misery and torture we cause in the world, I do value animals over humans. And the way that I kind of rationalize this to people is every non-vegan will actually agree with me on this. Actually, there's no pig or chicken or cow or sheep who deserves to die, right? There are so many humans on this planet who deserve to die, and I think there's a lot of I think most non-vegans would actually agree with me on that. But here's the thing about your question: you can be vegan and choose to save all the humans. You can actually be vegan, and I don't agree with this. I think it's a speciesist position, but you can be vegan and choose to save the 5 humans. In fact, many vegans I know would choose to do that. Veganism is not about valuing humans over animals or animals over humans. It's about valuing animals over your taste buds or your fashion sense or your entertainment or whatever it is. All you're doing with veganism is just granting animals have moral value, and that their moral value is such that it's not worth, your taste pleasure is not worth murdering a pig or a cow or whatever the animal is.
When you said fashion, does that pertain to killing an animal for their fur, or just taking their fur, like for sheeps, for example? You take their fur, but you leave them alive. Does that pertain to both?
Well, it pertains to both, because the wool industry is the lamb meat industry. You see, so those sheep are bred for both their wool and their meat. So after they've been sheared for their wool, they will have their throats slit and be turned into meat, and they'll often actually be sent on live export. They go on these torturous journeys, often to extremely hot places like the Middle East, or go on journeys, from Australia to the Middle East, for example, on ships. They're standing in their own waste for 15, 20 hours. And there they just have their throats slit when they get off the ship, basically. So the wool industry is like the fur industry or the leather industry, where cows are murdered and have their skin stripped off. So people think wool is this just kind of like, oh, just a bunch of lambs in a field and we just take their wool and then, leave them alone. But it's not like that. It's a very, very brutal industry.
What if you know that the fur that you have sourced comes from animals that have not been killed?
So the reason I wouldn't, so obviously that's very, very, very much morally preferable to funding the fur industry. Like, say someone finds a bit of roadkill or something, I don't know, and they take the fur off that dead animal. That's 1,000 times more ethical than the fur industry. I still don't think it would be vegan, because it's a form of, you're basically turning someone's dead body or something that belongs to them into like a fashion statement for yourself. And it advertises that, fur wearing is kind of acceptable kind of thing. Whereas I want to go into a society where we move past all forms of animal use, animal commodification.
I mean, to be honest, I don't know if you're being serious about that roadkill comment, but in my eyes, fuck no. I would never use fur from a roadkill. Like, we talk about health reasons by side. To me, that is, how should I say, disrespectful in a sense. You're literally taking the fur from an animal that, well, it's gonna be contradictory. It can't defend itself. You're taking a fur away from an animal that can't defend itself, can't run away. It's like, it's dishonoring the animal itself.
I agree. Personally. No, great. Yeah, I just said it would be more ethical than the fur industry.
Yeah.
Because the fur industry, you're trapping a mink in a tiny cage for their whole life and then snapping their neck over your knee. Or I don't know if you've seen what happens to raccoon dogs in China, but they stick this like poker thing up their ass and like fry them from the inside and then skin them alive. Like, the fur industry is just beyond evil. Like, beyond evil.
Do they do that for purposes of efficiency, or do they do that just because they get something out of it? It seems the poke up the arse seems so inefficient.
Yeah, I think they see that as the quickest way to do it. You'll have to watch the fur videos from China with raccoon dogs. I think many people just ask why. They'll just see that video and just be like, bro, why? Just why? So
yeah, to be honest, that's kind of grim. I mean, it has to be culturally in China. Like, from living here 3 months, a lot of stuff is cultural. You don't understand why it is culturally, why they do it the way they do it.
Yeah,
it's stupid. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I don't agree with, like cultural practices of killing animals. I don't understand from an efficiency standpoint, I don't understand why you would put an animal through unnecessary suffering. And that's again contradictory to why would you eat animals in the first place? How could I be in favor of that, be against that, but be in favor of eating meat? That's another contradictory point. Yeah. It's I don't really have I can't really explain to you why I think a certain way. I mean, I thought I kind of did, but I don't feel like I need to explain myself that much. I don't think you'd want to hear me explain myself either. I wouldn't. For your sake, I wouldn't want to either. It's messed up, my thinking. I can acknowledge that. But it's not something I regret or something like that.
All right. Well, look, yeah. I think we've had the debate, the chat now, so that's good, man. And well, Zach, thank you for coming on, dude. And I'll put this up on my YouTube and drop you a message on Instagram in a bit. And have a good rest of your day. And obviously, I hope that you keep considering these points. And
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, the vegan diet. I don't know much about. I don't find the vegan diet overly healthy. People get affected differently by the vegan diet. Some people's immune systems are stronger, some are weaker. You react differently to types of food. a lack of, sometimes it also depends. I mean, if you follow the vegan diet properly and you eat all the minerals and vitamins, you're fine. But it's also about accessibility to vegan products in different regions that cause these, people to have, mineral defects in a way. But to be honest, I will be going vegetarian probably by the time I reach my mid-30s, purely from a health perspective. And because, like you said, we don't need to eat meat to stay healthy.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah,
something.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it's definitely more accessible now as well. I know a lot of vegans living in, developing and third world countries, for example. So if anyone's watching, by the way, who is in a region of the world where like certain products aren't as accessible and you're finding like nutrition or whatever harder, I can put you in touch with those people. So yeah.
Yeah, well, nice to meet you.
Hey, you too, Zach. You have a good one, man.
Yeah, cheers. Name's Martin, yeah?
My name is George Martin is my name.
Oh, shit, yeah. Sorry, Martin sounds like I don't know why Martin is just in my head, but yeah. Nice to meet you too, Martin. Thanks for the chat.
All right, have a good one.
You too. Cheers.
Bye.